Welcome back to Voice and Verse, where books aren't just read, they are lived. Today, we are diving into a true classic, a book that has guided the leaders, parents, entrepreneurs, and seekers for decades. It's The Seven Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen R. Covey. This isn't just another self help book, it's a framework for living. Covey doesn't just talk about the tricks, shortcuts, or quick fixes. Instead, he speaks about the timeless principles that shape the way we see the world, the way we lead ourselves, and the way we influence others. So let's walk through these seven habits not as a checklist but as a journey. And as Covey intended, we'll move from dependence to independence and finally to interdependence. Habit number one, be proactive. Covey begins with a simple but profound truth. Between stimulus and response, there is a space, and in that space lies our power to choose. So often we live reactively. Someone criticizes us and we feel angry. The weather is bad and we say it ruined our day. But Covey challenges us to see that our lives aren't controlled by the outside forces. They are controlled by how we choose to respond to them. He tells us the story of Viktor Franklin, the Holocaust survivor who endured the unimaginable suffering in concentration camps. Franklin discovered that even when everything was stripped away freedom, dignity, comfort there was still one freedom left, the freedom to choose his attitude. That insight is at the heart of proactivity. Being proactive means taking responsibility for your life. Instead of blaming your circumstances, you focus on your circle of influence, the things you actually can control. Reactive people shrink their circle by focusing on the problems and blaming. Proactive people, whereas, expand it by focusing on the action and responsibility. Habit number two, begin with the end in the mind. Imagine attending your own funeral. Four people stand up to speak: a family member, a close friend, a colleague, and someone from your own community. What would you want them to say about you? This exercise may sound grim, but Covey uses it to ask, are you living today in alignment with the legacy you want to leave? Habit second is about vision. Without it, we spend our lives climbing the ladders only to discover they were always leading towards the wrong wall. Beginning with the end in the mind means identifying your deepest values and principles and letting them guide every decision. Covey wants and suggests creating a personal mission statement. Just as the companies define their vision, so too we should define the kind of person we want to be. For some, it might be integrity, for others, contribution. The key is to let those values steer your life rather than being pushed by urgency, trends, or external expectations. Habit number three, put first things first. If habit second is about vision, habit third is about discipline. It's about living each day aligned with the end in the mind. Covey introduces his most famous time management metrics. On one side, urgent versus non urgent, on the other, important versus non important. Most of us spend our lives chasing the urgent, the emails, the deadlines, the ringing phones. But the true effectiveness lies in the focusing on what's important but not urgent, building relationships, planning health, personal growth. These are the things that don't scream for attention today but quietly shape the quality of our future lives tomorrow. Putting the first things first is about courage. The courage to say no to the lesser priorities so you can say yes to what really matters. Habit 4, think win win. We live in a competitive world and many of us are conditioned to see the life as a zero sum game. If you win, I lose. If I win, you lose. But Covey challenges this scarcity mindset with the habit 4, think win win. Win win is not about compromise where both the sides settle for less. Rather, it's about seeking the solutions where both sides benefit. It's about abundance, believing that there is enough success, recognition, and the opportunity to go around. He tells the story of the negotiations where both the parties comes out stronger because they focused on the shared interests and not the conflicting positions. In the families, workplaces, communities, win-win situation creates the trust, collaborations, and long-term successes. And here is the key. Win-win requires both courage and consideration. Courage to advocate for your own needs and consideration to genuinely value the others. Without both, you end up in the win-lose or the lose-win, and neither of which sustains the relationships. Habit 5. Seek first to understand, then to be understood. How often do we listen only to reply? While someone is speaking, our minds are busy preparing what to say next. We don't truly listen. We evaluate, we judge, we filter through our own lenses. Covey flips the script. If you want the influence, if you want real connection, seek first to understand. Truly, deeply listen. Listen with empathy. Step into the other person's shoes and feel their perspective. When the people feel understood, their defenses lower. Only then are they open to understanding you. This habit transforms the conflicts, heals relationships, and builds trust. Habit 6. Synergize. Synergy is when the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. It's when the differences don't divide us, but create something better. Covey explains that the true synergy comes from valuing diversity. Instead of tolerating the differences, you celebrate them. You recognize that other people see the world differently, and that difference can spark the creative solutions you had never reached alone. Think of a team brainstorming session where one idea sparks another, leading to a breakthrough none of them could have created individually. That's synergy. It requires the openness, trust, and the humility to admit we don't have all the answers. Habit 7. Sharpen the saw. Finally, habit 7 is about renewal. Covey uses the metaphor of a woodcutter sawing a tree. If the saw becomes dull, he'll work harder and harder but make very little progress. The solution isn't to push harder, but to pause and sharpen the saw. In life, sharpening the saw means investing in ourselves physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. Exercise, rest, learn, meditate, and the relationships we create. These all are the practices that make us sharp. Too often, people say that they are too busy to renew themselves. But Covey reminds us that without renewal, we burn out, lose the effectiveness, and disconnect from our deepest values. Sharpening the saw isn't a luxury, it's a necessity. The journey from dependence to independence. Covey weaves these habits into a larger framework of maturity. First, we move from dependence, relying on others, to independence through the first three habits. Then, through the habits 4 to 6, we learn interdependence, and the highest form of maturity, where we collaborate effectively with others. Habit 7 sustains the journey. Effectiveness, Covey reminds us, is not about the speed or shortcuts. It's about aligning our lives with the timeless principles. Concluding it, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People isn't a book that you read once and just put down. It's a compass, meant to be revised, reflected on, and lived daily. Covey's wisdom is simple but powerful. Choose responsibility over blame. Live with the vision. Prioritize what matters. Seek solutions where everyone wins. Listen deeply. Value the differences. And never stop renewing yourself. Because effectiveness isn't destination. It's a way of life. That was the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen R. Covey, a timeless guide to building a life of principle, vision, and effectiveness. If this audiobook style summary inspired you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Words and Words for more journeys into the books that transforms our lives. Until next time, remember, effectiveness begins not with what you do, but with who you choose to be.